Okay, we're here.
Yay! I can hear you. Oh, now I can see you. There we go.
And hear us.
We're winning. How's it going, folks? How are you?
It's going well.
It's sunny now.
It's sunny and extremely windy.
Yeah, same here.
Same
It's
there.
disturbingly windy.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Will the house
yeah,
blow down or not?
yeah. I kept waiting for some tree to blow over. Like something's got to fall or fall apart with this level of wind. It's like
Right.
beginning
Somewhere.
tornado-y. Yeah, and it's cold. I'm not a fan, to be honest.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
So how have things been going since we've been emailing and bring me up to speed on how Loki's doing, all of the stuff, because has happened since we last met. How are
Yes.
things now? How are you feeling?
Um, I guess I'm not feeling all that much different because I feel like it's taken from the our last meeting till now to get a solid understanding and plan on the drugs, and work through that, between your help, which was invaluable for me to sound like I knew something about what I was talking about with the vet,
Hmm.
to be able to understand what she was after and what, I don't know that she had a plan per se, but what the plan was going forward. So that was all not fun and very stressful, as with his lower dosage he started to become, to revert back and to be biting, so that was not fun. But going back on the dose, it's just been just over a week. It was a week on Tuesday, and I would say he's evening out a lot.
Yep.
Like when looking at the calendar, the first time he was on the full dose, it was 2 weeks to the day I was in the vet with him, like breaking down.
Hmm.
And he's been on it now a week and a day, the full dose this time. And having had it already in his system, he's certainly handling it better than he was.
Okay.
He's playful
Yep. Yep.
again. He's not starving himself, although that is one of our challenge points, is getting him to eat.
Okay.
But he's not. Before, he would just fully resist. He would just not do it.
Just walk away or not even go close to it.
Yeah. But now it's more like, maybe he's a little unhappy, so he's using that as a tool, against us, is what it seems. But I'm also figuring out his food has been, it's, well, this is a whole different thing, but I wanted to ask about his food has been moved many times, say over the last year, to the location where he eats.
Okay.
And he seems to do better or want to be watched while he eats,
Okay.
but not too close that he feels like he has to guard what he eats.
Okay. We need a Goldilocks zone of just right. Okay. Okay.
Exactly. Exactly. And I thought I've tried many things, but his initially, like his safe space being the sun porch, his food was near the kitchen. And then I realized, well, maybe he's uncomfortable that, like, he's not near his food when he's,
When he's
cordoned off in his safe space. So it seems like maybe he's guarding his food because we keep putting a barrier between him and his food. So I'm like, well, I'll move the food into where his whole safe space, so then it
Okay.
moved there.
Okay.
And that seemed to be good for a while, but then it became, well, uh he'd get morning food, but he wouldn't eat it until afternoon. He
Okay.
just would refuse, and I'm like, well, it's because, then I thought, well, maybe it's because he didn't have company. So I could go in there in the morning, but then the food would be in there for his, and he'd eat it if I was in there in the morning. But then at nighttime, we'd be at the dinner table and his food would be in the other room and he'd want to come and sit near the dinner table where we were. So I'm
Sure.
like,
Okay.
okay, now I got the opposite problem. So then I started bringing his evening food to the dinner table, and it would be next to the dinner table while
Okay.
we had dinner. And that seemed to be okay for a short period if he could eat it last. He wanted to make sure that there weren't any good things coming from the table that might happen. And as
Okay.
long as he was satisfied that we were done and there wasn't anything he was getting, then he would consume his own food. And that worked for a while. And then
Okay.
that stopped working. So what then I'm like, okay, well, he seems to be afraid of, now he became where he was like afraid of eating right next to us. And I'm like, well, maybe this is a guarding thing. He's too close. Like we're too close where I put it near the table.
Okay.
So now it's back in the sun porch, it's back in the safe room. But then when I put it in there at nighttime, I stand in the doorway and I encourage him to eat it. And I just stand there while he consumes it. And
Okay.
so at the moment, that's working.
Okay.
But
So any suggestions?
yeah, when you
Yeah.
hear that whole rigmarole.
When I
What we
hear
have
that
found
whole,
is what we have found is for giving him his pill, he loves liverwurst.
great. Okay.
Is we put it in a little ball of his liverwurst and he doesn't do anything.
He eats
Chomps
it
it
up.
down.
Beautiful, beautiful. And that's exactly what you should be doing is getting something that's super high value because especially that medication, the Prozac, can have a
Mhm.
really bitter taste and taste horrible to some
Mm.
dogs to the point where they're like, get it away from me. So
That
fantastic.
was him at the beginning for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, he would find
yeah,
it and spit it out.
yeah. Especially that one. I mean, no one really likes the meds in there, the smart dogs, right? But for whatever reason, the fluoxetine, especially if you have the tablets, those can taste a little bit more bitter. The it's funny, your situation sounds very much like what I went through with my dog over the
Okay.
years with the picky eating and the anxiety and all of the things. It was very much a trial and eval. Why aren't you eating? Is it the food? Is it the anxiety? Is it pain? It's like, what's going on? For years
Okay.
years we were struggling with this and I did the same thing like art maybe sometimes I called it a social eater like I had to be nearby for
Mhm.
him to be eating he never had any resource guarding issues but he would just the food would be there and he'd just kind of look at it and like I don't want to touch it. I'm like please eat just oh my God eat so I
Right.
feel you on how it's it's frustrating because you're like, please just eat because I know you're going to feel better if you have food in your system.
Right.
But you also don't want to like shove food in their face to the point where they're like, oh God, she's chasing me with the food again. And then they become averse to it. So it's, yes, first of all, I feel you on how hard that is because it's supposed to be something easy. Offer the
Yeah,
dog food
all
and he should
dogs
eat.
snarf down food,
You
right? Yeah.
know, he didn't get the memo. He did
No, he
not get the
didn't.
memo.
In the
And
first
here's
couple
the
of years, he
thing.
would eat, you would eat hard, kibble food,
Yeah.
but now it's strictly soft, dog food.
And
And
that
I
is a
hope,
big tell for is there something going on in here?
yeah,
So, as much as it's frustrating right now, and I commend you for trying different things, like observing, being like, this worked. We're not going to mess with it. We're not going to mess with it until it stops working, and then you try something else. I think that's fantastic. As frustrating
okay.
as it is, that's what we would all do. And that's what I would say that we do is let's try this, see if that works, for how long it works the vet visit that you have coming up, where he's going to
Mhm.
be possibly sedated to get like a good look at everything, I think will help us to be like, okay, what's going on here? Because if there's something structural happening in here, that could provide lots of answers. Is there a
Right.
broken tooth? Is there some sort of infection? Like, who knows what they're going to find in there? So I wouldn't change anything right now. If you moved it back to the safe space and for now that's working, can we just get through these next couple of weeks to see
Okay.
if that'll work? I mean, if it's still, let's say they do that exam with your vet and everything in the mouth is fine. They do a visual examination that looks fine. They could even do radiographs. There's dental radiographs they can
Gonna do
do.
that.
Perfect, because that's really the way to see what's going on under the gums that you can't see with the naked eye.
Right.
So that's, and usually they do need to be sedated for
Yeah,
that
And
he'll be
you,
because,
sedated. Yep,
yeah.
you
that's
did give him one day. We did try giving him gabapentin along with his other stuff.
Yeah, how did that go? Not that I want
Gave
to
it to
sidetrack
him.
yet, but yes.
yep. I gave it to him in the morning. It went well. He came in and he looked at me and he was a little shaky, like he did know that he was on something.
He felt
It
off.
wasn't
Yeah.
nearly the reaction as the trazodone, like how he gets
Okay.
really freaked out on that.
Okay.
And then I just told him he was okay and everything was good. And he went in the other room and he slept for probably 4 hours and then was just kind of chill. I mean, it was a kind of a gray day. So that was good because he wouldn't have wanted to go outside anyway
Sure.
when it's too cold or rainy.
Yeah.
But then in the afternoon, I we went for a long adventure, and he was handled it really well, and he didn't actually go to the vet, so I think that was helpful.
Okay.
But I realized when thinking about because I want to try it again this weekend since it's the visits coming up. I never asked him to like get up and do anything when he was like that you're supposed to give it to him and then 2 hours later I'm supposed to take him in so that it's fully in effect. And I'm like,
Mhm.
I should have asked him to go somewhere in 2 hours, not necessarily out of the house, but just like saw if I could get him up because he
Well,
really did just fall asleep. And I don't know if I can get him up. So I'm going to try
sure.
that next time.
Yeah, actually, I like to do it the way you did it. I like
Okay.
to do it where I just give the gabapentin one day on a regular day, like
Right.
nothing special, because that helps to see if there's any side effects. So I think you did it beautifully. It sounds like at first he's like, something's going on, I feel weird, but everything else kind of leveled out, which is wonderful. I think
Yep.
if now we want to be like, okay, now that we know how he handled it, now let's add in another factor of let's do a thing, right? The 2 hours afterwards. That's why I
Right.
suggested, and it can be any number of things, but I had suggested just getting him in the car and driving to the vet hospital. Maybe don't even get out of the car, but just go to the parking lot just to
Okay.
see, is he still even keel or is he fighting his way through the medication and it's not helping anymore?
Okay.
Because that would be good information because that's what's going to happen on the day of, right? You're going to give it, and then 2 hours later, you're going to get in the car, and then you're going to go, and
Right.
lots of stuff will
So
happen.
on the day of, I'm supposed to do it the night before and the morning of.
Okay,
Or
great.
okay.
Okay.
So should I try that? Because I only gave it to him the morning of when I did the kind of the trial.
I don't know if you necessarily need to test the night before and the
Oh,
morning of. Yeah,
okay.
now that you know how it impacts him, the the half-life of gabapentin is such that we're giving it the night before, so there's more consistent effects for when you give it in the morning, but I'm not worried about him being like overdosed
Okay.
necessarily. The more that medications like those are in his system, kind of like the Prozac every single day. So the more that it's in his system, the more that the effects it can be more effective. That was a poor way to say that. It can be more effective if it's given more consistently. So that's why for the day of the appointment, they'll have it, you give it the night before, but I don't think there's a need to test that in
Okay.
advance because you've already done the test of figuring
Okay.
out, does he tolerate this well?
Right. Right. And it was much better than the trazodone. Much, much better.
Okay. That's good information. And that's good information, especially if later on in the day you went for your adventure walk and when you say things were fine, was he fine like he's always fine on the adventure walk, or was he any more calm than normal that you could appreciate?
He might have been just a little bit more chill, like a little bit more selective of what he was going and sniffing instead of sniffing everything.
Okay,
I feel like
okay,
maybe he was just a little more selective. Oh, that
okay,
sniff over there might be far away. I'm just going to stay on the line I'm on. But
okay.
for the most part, he was out in that field that I sent you the picture of where,
Yeah,
it's pretty just big and open to wherever he wants to lead me. So, and that was, yeah, maybe his reactions were just a little more mellow than excited to be sniffing, but not
okay.
markedly
Yeah.
so.
And I think the other thing over the last couple of weeks, don't know if it's the full pill that he's on. It's helping him and plateauing him because I've taken him on some long adventures, 2.5, 3 mile, and he has actually stayed like right next to me. And normally he'd be 15 feet in front of me, sniffing everything and wanting to
Hmm.
jump into everything and chase
Yeah,
everything. And it's a positive sign, but you need to see more of it.
sure.
So,
Yeah. So
and
he's
the other
less
thing
hyper
too is,
vigilant.
yeah, in one of my, usually when I get home from work and I take them for an adventure, I'll venture towards where the vet is. And I've noticed that he was constantly looking over at the building, like, I know that building. I
Hmm.
want to go to that building. So I said, okay, we'll go over to the building. And most of the time it's always been no vehicles, there's nobody there. I'm like, oh, I'll just see how he does. And he would sniff around and he'd go right to the door and he'd look inside the door like, what? There's something in there. I've been in there before. And the last time I did it, there was actually people there. There was vehicles in the parking lot, and he still did the same thing. So I'm like, I think that's a good sign because he's enjoying going to that door, and hopefully
Okay.
that'll give him a memory to say, "Hey, I wanted to see what's in there. Now I need to go in there."
Sure. Yeah. And I
That's not
refer to
always
those.
bad.
Yeah, I refer to those as happy visits, where you're going to the vet, but nothing bad is happening. We're just
Yeah.
going, maybe if there's like a receptionist and there's no one in the lobby, we go in and the receptionist will toss a treat or something like that. And that's it. And then we leave, right? Like just being like every time we go to the
Good
vet, it
idea.
doesn't equal a bad thing happening. The key to doing that, and you can tell me if you're doing this already, is as much as he's ready to go in there and going up to the door, really keep an eye on his body language because that's
Mhm.
what's going to tell you, are you anxious about going in there or are you happy about going in there? And you'll know that based on like what his eyes, his ears, his mouth, his tail, his overall body tension are saying. Because a dog that looks excited about going in could be pulling on the leash, just like a happy dog might be. The dogs that are nervous about this might be sniffing a lot, their tails straight up, like their ears are super forward, whereas a happy dog, he's got loosey-goosey butt going on. The tail's a little bit more neutral and slowly swishing side to side instead of straight up or just kind of really quickly back and forth. So that's why we focus a lot in the beginning of really getting a thorough understanding of Loki's specific body language. And once you do that, I tell this to everybody, you can't unlearn it, unfortunately. And once you see it, it's like the glass shattering, and that's my bad news for you, is that once you start watching Loki's body language, you're always going to watch it. You're going to be like, man, I wish I didn't have to know the things that I know now because now I can tell when you're nervous and when you're that. So it's a double-edged sword sometimes when you know more things, but watching his reaction to how he's doing even in the parking lot or if in the
Mhm.
car is useful information to be like, are you excited about what's about to happen or are you nervous about what's to happen? Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. I know there was a lot of information I sent in the last summary as far as lots of things to click on.
Mm.
And the body language resources in particular are plentiful. If you opened up that link, there's a lot of different examples. I don't expect you to have reviewed absolutely everything there because there's way too much. but on a few things that get kind of get your attention. Like if you are a person that likes to watch videos, maybe you'll click on one of those resources. If you're a person that likes to read articles or blogs, maybe click on one of, like pick and choose the things that kind of speak to you. Was there anything in particular that you referenced that you found helpful or enlightening, or you haven't had a whole lot of time to go through it yet, which is also totally fine.
Well, I think both of those things. There was so
Sure.
much of it. We haven't had the time to go through probably as much as we'd
Right.
like. I didn't realize there were going to be quite so many links. So the first day I started, I just like, well, I'm just going to go through and open all the links and then I'll have tabs for everything. And then I can go through the tabs was my thought process. But then by the time I got done doing it, I'm like, oh my gosh, and some of these tabs have links in them. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm overwhelmed now. But so I kind of started at the end, and that was where that one day I was talking to you about threshold and an
Yeah.
email. I brought up the thresholds because that was like the very last thing
Yeah.
in what you sent me, but that was the first tabs that I went through. And I don't know that you read those, but we
Mhm.
talked about that. I'm like, this is kind of the bucket thing and filling up the
Hmm.
bucket and the threshold. And so we've been, if nothing else on that particular topic, we now have similar language to discuss it with each other. That
Good.
like, when he did have his biting before he was up on the full pill, it was like, this is kind of our fault. And there was so much yesterday. And when did he reach his threshold? When do you think he reached his threshold? So we have had some good discussions around that, and what should we do when we think he's at his threshold? And
Yeah.
we've made some changes there because that the one night in particular, he'd been to, I think he'd been out to the farm that day, and he'd been uh, maybe to Dubuque the day before. I can't remember all the things, but then it over the night after he had his episode, I'm like, well, not only was he at his threshold, some of what created the situation was we were at our threshold. Like it had been a very busy
Sure.
weekend, and we were like, we're just going to plop down in these two chairs and watch some TV, which is something we don't do very often. It was like our threshold to put us there. So then when he was already at his and he was in the same room as us, and he wasn't, getting the attention, or he was didn't like the TV or whatever was going on with him, we were so far past our threshold, we weren't
We weren't
watching
watching. Yeah, we
him.
weren't watching.
Yeah.
And that was a bad combination. So we have just from that, kind of instigated on top of the no touching, no up on the lap kind of avoidance that we talked about last time. We've put in like an early settle down time where he has to go into the sun porch, and we might still be reading a book or cleaning up the kitchen or something, but he's in there with the gates closed, and whatever his threshold is, whatever our threshold is, we're then both safe from each other at the end of
Yeah.
day when it's you know everybody's at their highest thresholds.
Yeah.
So that we
I
kind of
love that.
implement that, and it's been working.
Yeah. And
Um,
I'd say on walks, we know there's certain dogs that he will not bark or the hackles come up or but
that he's totally fine with.
he wants to go visit the person. The dog might be right
Uh,
there, but he goes right to the person, gets his enjoyment. The other dog's just kind of sitting there. It's fine and dandy. We know those people, so we
okay.
still allow it.
Okay.
But there's other people that we just don't know who they are, who their dogs are, and you can see the hackles come up.
Hmm.
And one of the videos I did watch, the person was like, well, just totally walk the opposite way or find a different path so that
Mhm.
you don't get to those levels of anxiety. So I've started to do that in my walks as much as I can.
Love that.
Squirrels, he loves to chase squirrels. He's a terrier.
Okay. Of course.
But, when we first started with them at Tara's mom's house, she likes to feed the birds. Well,
Ah,
we didn't want him to do anything with the birds. So it was always no birds. Birds are good. They're good. Birds are good. Well, I've started doing the same thing with squirrels, and he's getting better. He might see it and he might just keep walking. He might see it and he might just chase it. But if it goes up a tree, I can't do anything about it.
sure.
There's a couple times he'll is his old way. He'd bark and growl, and if he could climb that tree, he'd go after it. But it's more, I'd say 50% of the time I can get him past the squirrel without a problem.
That's tremendous.
Yep.
That's tremendous.
So just
50%?
watching those videos and reading, the things, to try not to fill his bucket with the anxiety things, keep it out of his bucket. And
I
that's
love
what's
that you're seeing
Yeah.
that. Yeah. That's fantastic. And we can certainly build on more skills for that. So what you're doing, the avoidance part, and we talked about this last time because there's practically everything that you folks are already avoiding. So you were already doing it before you even knew it was a thing. But I love that now you can see we're going to specifically avoid like people we don't know. We're not even going to get into it. We're not even going to try. And that you're seeing the effects of he's less likely to react to this or less likely to react as intensely to this. That is the sign of this thing is probably working. Because as you said, the bucket is not getting overfilled. That's step one, and the avoidance stuff. And then eventually we can be like, okay, we don't want to avoid everything forever. There are some things that we would rather work on. For example, I think we talked about this last time. Like my dogs also hate other dogs. So we avoid people a lot, but for some instances, I'm like, I can't always avoid depending on where I'm on. So I want to teach them the skills to choose to move away without having such a big freak out about it. So that's a skill we worked on as opposed to my house, they like to bark at dogs passing by the house.
Mhm.
I don't care to work on that. That's too much work. So for me, I put up the static window film that blocks their view, and that fixes it for me because they're less likely to see. And so I'm okay with never addressing that because the management is good enough for me. So you
Mhm.
can pick and choose the things that are like, yeah, we'll just avoid people forever on walks. You could do that. Or we can be like, let's do that for now, but eventually I want to work on the skills. Does that make
Mhm.
sense? Because I don't
Yeah.
want you folks are already doing so much avoidance for so many things, which I love and is tremendous for when we're starting. But just know that it doesn't have to be that way forever for all of the things. It can be that way for just the things that you're like, yeah, I don't care about that. But for the things that we want to work on, we can work on those things over time.
Great. Great. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think the people dog thing is a challenge. I come back from many walks. Larry comes home from work and I have to vent about some other stupid human and what they do because I mean that's the other thing, like I'm
The
doing
unleashed
everything
dogs.
I possibly can, yeah, whether it's unleashed dogs or people who you know don't care that what you're doing, they want their dog to greet you, and I'm sure you've heard them all, but it's very frustrating that we're trying to teach him and keep him sane and then just random people are blowing that for us on a regular
Yeah.
basis. So in addition, we have like one of the easy, just like when he has to get a little bit off the top, we just zoom around the block that's we live on, and it can be a very dog populated place at certain
Yep.
times.
Yeah.
So it's like it's great to say that we're going to turn around when we see a dog, but a lot of times we're like there's one behind us that we're trying to keep in front of to keep him away from that dog. And then
Sure.
you round the
Sure.
corner and there's one coming at you and you're like, darn it anyway.
Right.
Foiled again. We're gonna have, and we cut through people's yards and I do everything possible. And the other day I had some guy be like, my dog's friendly, as I'm like trying to cut through a cemetery and I'm like, my dog's not. Like,
Yeah.
stop
Yeah.
coming at us.
Your
Yes.
little one just climbed up behind you.
Yes.
She'll do that. And that's her spot. And then
It's
hanging
a
out
good
there
spot.
just to relax. So she's also a terrier, a little Jack Russell, which is why I have the big feels for Loki, because I'm like, yeah, I get
Can
the
you
whole
see
terrier
Loki where
vibe.
he's at right now, or
I see a lot of sunlight, but I can't see him. I want to see him. Is he on the floor or is he on the bed there?
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know if you can.
There might just be a lot of, I think it's the light shining in. It's just really bright.
You gotta look at it, make sure you're in the picture.
Just the little bubbies. You see him?
Is he in the corner?
Oh, there's so much sunlight and he's
Yeah, I
white.
think it's just the sunlight. I'm getting glimpses. I'm getting glimpses. I see black and white. He looks like he's super relaxed though in that
Yes.
sun ray. Does he really like laying in the sunbeams?
He loves them. He follows them around the house. But that, actually, I'll throw a picture of that because I have a picture of him in the window in one of a next email, just so you can see, because there's two windows in our house that go all the way to the ground. They're
To the floor.
old windows. And when the sun gets over to that side, he's in one of those windows, but because it goes all the way to the ground, he can see out.
Sure. Yeah.
He doesn't have to do anything to see out. He doesn't have to stand on a bed or a couch or anything like that.
Right.
It's at his height. It's at the floor.
Yeah.
But on one level, I think those windows are helping the situation because he can go to them and he sits there and just watches outside
People
for hours.
People with dogs.
Or the sun
Okay.
comes out and he's in the sun and sleeps for hours.
Great.
So as long as he's good with it, and then we also try to help identify if he does bark or something or growl, like what is it, and then
Sure.
let him experience the new thing.
Oh, it's just the
Sure.
neighbor, just the
Yeah.
neighbor's dog. Good doggy,
That's a friend. That's the mailman.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. So
Yeah.
if he learns the noises, maybe then they won't be scary.
And that's definitely something we can work on too. If we want to keep access to that window, we can pair usually food with the person passing by. So the person passing by is not something to be concerned with, because what happens with the barking, my dogs used to do this all the time, is someone would be passing by and so they'd bark because they didn't want that person passing by, and then the person would leave. And so they very quickly learned my barking worked. It scared them off. And so it just perpetuates this cycle. And I'm like, that's not the point, but they feel super proud of themselves. So we can shift it a little bit to be like, yeah, that's a person there. Thanks for letting me know. Someone was passing by the house. You can stop barking now because we're fine. Because I think barking in itself, and you folks, I think, are on the same page of it's okay to bark. We just don't need to get all crazy about it. Like something passed by, sure, thanks for letting me know, but we don't need to continue doing that and get like all riled up. It's encouraging that he likes to sleep there and he'll watch things going. And you said that if he reacts, then you'll address it. So it's not like he's doing it anytime something is passing by. So that's okay for now, I think. Yeah.
I think the only time he gets completely out of control is when a bunny appears like right in front of him in the front yard.
She would do the same too. She'd be like, I'm gonna go eat that bunny. So
Well, I did something, I don't know if it was yesterday or the day before, on one of my walks, and we're walking along and there was a a sign that was on the ground. It was a fairly big sign, and I could see, and it was in a field. I could see. I'm like, oh, there's, and he started sniffing. There was mouse trails that I could see that were going.
Ah,
I'm like,
perfect.
I'm like, he's going to enjoy what's under there. I go,
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure there's going to be a mouse in there. So I
Yep.
lifted it up to let him enjoy it. But was that the right thing to do? Because he he looked at it, he started chasing it. He caught it, he got it in his mouth, and he flipped it up, and he was all happy. And then I'm like, oh, I don't want you to eat it. So I kind of stopped him, and he just kind of looked at it. It died, and
Yeah.
he wanted to play with it more. And I'm like, nope, all done. And we walked away. Now it did take me a couple minutes to get him away. It's
Sure.
like I had to
Yeah.
drag, but I just, we kept on using all done, let's go this way, and try to get him to think of something else. And it took a couple minutes to get him to do something, but I did get him to
Yeah.
walk away, but not, and not eat it.
Yeah.
That was
My
key.
dogs have definitely eaten birds and baby bunnies and mice. And usually it's because I don't catch it because they
Yep.
were like buried in the ground and whatever. Um, as far as letting him do it, I think that can be here or there. I think the problem is, like you said, getting him away, like
Right.
finishing that sequence, because dogs, especially terriers like ours, have that prey drive. And it's not necessarily something, I'll send you more information about it. Like, it's not that we'll train it out of them. Part of it is sure it's in their genetics, but we can also provide them with a different outlet for that drive. So we can
Yeah, they'd
provide
be good
a
to have.
different way where they can chase or stalk, chase, kill, destroy that's safe. So they're still getting out those kind of vibes
Okay.
without killing the actual thing outdoors. So sometimes when we do this purposely, when we introduce an activity like this to be like, this is what we want you to do in a safe way, it might lessen the tendency for them to look for it in other areas.
Okay.
Um, that actually might work nicely for like as an alternative to the times when maybe you can't go for a longer walk. Like you were saying, Tara, with the walk around the block. There's a lot of dogs in your immediate vicinity. I
Mm.
used to experience the same thing before I moved into the house I'm in now. So I didn't walk in my neighborhood. If we wanted to go for a walk, we would get in the car and drive somewhere. So it wasn't happening every single day. I didn't have
Gotcha.
that luxury because I couldn't chance who I was going to run into and what dog and which direction. I'm like, it's just not worth it for me
Mm.
or for my dogs because it's a lot for me to manage. So we would just drive to a different location. I also was very keen on going at odd times of day, but then everybody else with a reactive dog is also trying to go at that odd time of day. So that didn't work a lot. So we had to get a little creative on how can we still get some exercise indoors.
Mm.
And there's a game that we can play, one of which I'll recommend is a flirt pole. And I think this would be nice for you folks because it gives Loki a way to get that prey drive out. And
This
then
is
it's
Yep.
physical exercise.
So we have one.
Great. Tell me more.
So he one gets apoplectic just seeing it. He gets so excited to chase it.
Okay.
But
he's quick.
he's very fast. If I'm not uh very tricky, he has it before I can even actually put it out there.
Okay.
And the biggest problem though is he won't give it up.
Okay.
So he gets the little critter on the end,
Even with treats
and
with
yeah,
that he
like you can't
likes.
even do a trade for it. He
Okay.
does not want to give it up. And then then I have to like pretend I'm reeling in the big one, and I have to pull it away from him eventually.
Okay.
Um, so if you can help us get the calm him down to be able to play with it like for
Sure.
fun,
Yeah.
but he is so excited when he sees it.
I love that he's excited. So he's got to learn how to drop it
Right.
and
And
also just how
they
to
used to,
relax.
yeah, they used to play with them in the daycare. Occasionally one of the daycare people would get that out because they have a much bigger, like, he's off leash and they have a bigger open
Sure.
space. So I think it worked a little bit better for them, but their reaction, or the notes they'd always give was, he's so fast. Because he's way faster than we are.
Sure.
He's way faster than everybody. He will,
Fantastic.
especially when he's in full
Mhm.
I'm gonna get you mode.
Yeah.
He's lightning fast. So anything you can help us slow him down to make that a
Okay.
useful tool. Uh,
Definitely. I'll add that to the list that we work on. Drop it eventually. That way we can utilize that game, given how much he loves it. I think that's going to help us out a lot. I want to be cognizant of
yeah.
time for the 20 or
Yep.
so minutes we have left, because one of the things that I did want to talk about in terms of actual training, like practicing doing the skill, is the muscle training for the upcoming appointments. So
Yep.
I want to make sure that we talk about that. And then I think as another foundational piece, we can start talking about what are ways that we can try to teach Loki how to relax. How can we start doing that? That way we
Right.
can capture the winding downs and stuff like drop it become easy once we get to that point, or just him decompressing in a safe space when you guys are at the end of the day. By the way, when you do that right now, when you're like, okay, he's going to go to a safe space, we're going to decompress, finish up dinner and stuff. How does he do in there? Is he doing anything? Is he barking? Is he whining? What's going on in there?
No, very rarely is there any vocalization of any sort. Sometimes I'm not sure what his body posture is exactly saying, but sometimes he has a kind of a side body posture that I'm like, oh, he's not happy, and then he kind of has a front body posture that I'm like, he's not happy. So I just talk sweet, and usually he gets one of the good high value treats put on the couch in there with him, and even though his body posture is not good, I just let him know that it's settle down time, and that's where we stand. And it used to be that we weren't doing putting him in there till that it was like time for to go to bed, and then he'd be in that not happy body posture, and I'd be turning off the light and walking away. And I don't know what made me decide a while back. I'm like, that's just not fair to leave them all strung out sitting in the dark. So uh, I started for a while, like, even it would be time to go to bed, and I'd just stay up. I'd put him in there, I'd leave the lights on, and I'd stay
Mm,
up and read my phone or whatever until he laid down and had a more relaxed body. um, but now we're doing it earlier, so
I
he
see.
can hear all of us are relaxing. So when he goes
Okay.
in, he tends not to be very happy about it. And but then by the time we go upstairs to bed, he's usually, laid out sleeping.
And it's
Okay.
So
about an hour of time.
yeah, it's about an hour it takes to, but sometimes, I mean, sometimes he gets over it pretty quickly, and he'll be laying down in 10 minutes. He won't might not be asleep, but he'll be laying down versus, sitting up. And like I said, there's this weird kind of side body with his ears kind of out straight, and he looks very angry. And then there's one where he's kind of front on, but he's got his head really down. Like if you let him,
Hello.
he'd come at you.
Okay.
And like I said, I just talk sweet to him and tell him that it's time to settle down, and eventually it happens. But which leads me to the last, before we get to those other two things. Last night and then a couple nights ago, he refused to go in the safe space at all. Like he
Okay.
went in a totally different room. and curled up in the dark and was like, I'm not doing it. And I really have no idea why. I don't know if,
He's figured that out and decided to challenge us.
well, or if something, I don't know if something scared him. I know like yesterday specifically, I caught him like he was in the corner of the room looking at something that like I couldn't see, or sniffing at something that there was nothing on the ground, or I'm not sure what he was doing, but he didn't look happy about whatever he was investigating. It wasn't like, oh, you caught me doing something silly. It was more like I didn't like this thing and I was inspecting it.
Hmm.
And I don't know what that might have been, but all I could think was like he didn't feel safe in there
Okay.
last night. In addition, there was all that wind last night, and that's
Sure.
the sun porch. There's a lot more windows. Um, it this morning Larry found him all curled up in the bathroom, which is kind of like the safe room in the safe room,
And the darkest.
Sure.
darkest. And I know like all the patio furniture got blown over to one side of the patio last night. So that
Sure.
had to have made a
Yeah.
ton of noise. And
Yeah.
but in the same respect, I'm just not sure why he wouldn't go in there in the first place. But I wasn't
Right.
gonna force it either.
Yeah, I think that's fine because I don't want to either of you to put yourself in a situation where he thinks he needs to defend himself and he doesn't want to move and we're trying to move. Like, let's not.
Right.
The safe space, it sounds like he'll go during the day, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. It sounds like he'll go there during the day, especially if there's sun and there's stuff to look at.
Right.
And the nighttime going in there is the
It's
problem.
well, it's only happened twice
Yeah.
that he wouldn't go in, like
Okay.
wouldn't at all, and kind of put his foot down and refused.
And it
Um,
could be maybe something did happen the night before because we're not there, right? So maybe there was something that fell over or something that kind of spooked him. And
right.
that certainly is something he could carry with him. We did briefly talk last time about using sound masking, like a sound in there. How did that
Yeah,
go?
I tried that. When it was on, I tried white and brown and pink noise, and when it was
Okay.
on, he wouldn't go in the room.
Oh, stop it. Okay. So we're like, those don't work. That's
Yeah.
okay. That's good information. I would encourage you to
Well,
continue experimenting with sounds. They don't have
okay.
to be those. It can be other whatever is usually what I'll say is if do you listen to anything during the day ever where you're just kind of hanging out, relaxing, and you've got music on? Is there any like particular
I
thing?
don't. I'm kind of with Loki. I like it quiet.
Okay.
Larry listens to music a lot when like over the weekends and things.
Okay.
And he doesn't. Loki doesn't seem terribly bothered by that.
Maybe try
Sometimes,
that.
yeah.
Try something that sounds like that or try that kind of music just as a little
And
experiment to be like, what about this?
I have to say, at one point before before we hired you, etc., um, I tried like Amazon's classical music for dogs, or
Yeah.
and at least that one he would go in the same room as. So I have
Okay.
thought, well, maybe I should retry that,
Yeah.
because I don't know if it worked as far as bringing down any anxiety, but it didn't
Affect
make
him.
him leave the room.
And at this point, I
So,
think that's what we're looking for because
right,
I don't love that he doesn't want to go in there. The whole point of
right.
the safe space is it's I look forward to going in. So part one is okay, is there if there's something spooking him out at night, let's try different noises. Is there something that he doesn't mind being in the same room as? Because I don't want him to be offended by whatever noise is chosen that he wants to leave the room. That's hilarious. Um,
Right.
the other question I was going to ask about that is when he's going in there for nighttime, like we're settling up for night, time to go in the safe space. are you giving him anything to do in there at that point, or it's just we're gonna go in the safe space, calm yourself, and then we're all headed to bed? What does the routine look like right now?
Well, so his food and water are in there.
Okay.
So he has access to those. There's usually toys from the day on the floor. So if he
Okay.
wanted one of his toys, there's
Squeaky
usually
toys.
two or three.
Yep.
He gets either like a dental chew thing or fish skin or a piece of liver. Those are like some three of the top
Five items.
three
Okay.
valuable. So he usually gets something along those lines, the good ones, by going in there. But as far as like if he had a topple or a licking mat or those, and I haven't really done any practice with putting a stimulation thing like that in there.
I would experiment with that, based on what you see. And you guys get to be the judge of, does this activity get you more wound up, or does this activity relax you?
Mm-hmm.
For like her, licking is relaxing. So usually like we'll go for a walk and then we come back, they get a lick mat because the licking that repetitive motion helps her just calm from the walk, especially if we encountered a trigger. So it just helps calm, and then she ends up doing something like that after she's done with her lick mat. So that's what I'm looking for, is if we can find something like that for Loki, whether it's a lick mat or a chew or a topple or a Kong, like whatever, that
Mm-hmm.
has that effect of this is helping me relax on the Kong.
Right.
And we give that to him when he goes in the safe space at night, in addition to maybe at some other point during the day, because I don't want it to be that's the only time where he gets a long lasting treat is at night. I want it to also be at some other point during the day. But just to get him to build a positive association with going into that space, in addition to the food and water and toys that he's got in there.
Right.
How does that
Okay.
sound?
Okay. Sounds good.
So we'll
I can.
trial and eval sounds and the long-term calming projects to go into the safe space at night to see if that helps. Um, okay, we've only got a few minutes left. So aside from those, we've got the muzzle training that you had asked about. How is that progressing?
Again, with I've been almost exclusively using his favorite liver, dehydrated liver. And again, he can get his nose in. I can feed him through it. He's very, very comfortable, and it's all about that
The
snap.
tips. Okay.
And I read what you said about we'll make it loose so you don't like you snap it ahead of time and put it over. And his doesn't really have much play to do that, how it's designed. So I'm doing what I can, but he's not snarling or anything like that, but he just backs like, nope, I don't
He
want
backs
that.
up.
Yep.
Okay.
And oh well, hello, sir. Um, I'd say that I'll give it like I give it one or two tries if he backs up, just because I don't always think he means it. But then if he's not into it, like then
Yeah.
that's that. Yeah.
I think that's fair. And yeah,
Oh,
this is the
yeah.
muzzle I have for her back there for Sprite. And
Yep.
I had a similar problem with her, so I would just clip it in advance and then hold the whole thing in the front like that, and then just kind of slowly put it over her head eventually.
Mhm.
So it's not I mean, none of this is the most user friendly to try to treat and move the strap, treat and move the strap. Like if
Yeah.
you're struggling with that, everybody does. So don't feel like I'm doing something wrong. It's probably just we don't have four arms as much as we would love to have four arms. But one of the things I was thinking about, since he's just so sensitive to the clip itself, to try to troubleshoot that, I mean, there's only so much time that we have between now and your appointment. I
Mhm.
think the fastest way would be to try to get the straps over the head. Otherwise, trying to at least And you tell me if you've done this already. So the straps, I can undo them again. This one has a little safety feature on it, so I have to
So
slide it
does
back.
mine, and if you
Yeah, it gets
accidentally
stuck
do
a
it.
lot. Yes. So what happens if you try to be like, okay, his face is in here and I'm just moving the straps. I haven't clipped them, but I'm just putting them behind your neck. What does he do?
Sometimes I can do that and just and hold it like it's fully there and he's just chewing on his jerky and is fine. And other
Okay,
times once I get my hand all the way back there, then he starts
he's
backing up.
backing out.
Yeah.
Okay. So in a perfect world, then I would just do slow approximations. I'd be like, okay, we're gonna go here and then around your neck this much. And next time we're gonna go around your neck this much, and then this much, and then this much until they finally come together. That could be a way that you do that
Right.
and you use his body language to determine, should I go a little more next time or stay where we're at? And for him, the coming out of it is the indicator. Like,
Right.
okay, that was too much. Let's go back to the previous step. The only thing is it's just slow that way. And your
Right.
appointment is coming up, right? So I would also, one of the things that you could also do is try this with the gabapentin on board
That's what I was just
Okay.
going to ask.
to see if that's any different because maybe it takes just a little bit more of the edge off, that he's less concerned with the straps and or the clicking. So if you
Right.
give the another gabapentin dose over the weekend for the test of actually doing the thing, maybe
Mhm.
before you go off and do the thing, just do a couple minutes of the muscle training just to see where we're at because that's what you're going to do on day of anyway. So I think
Right.
it's good to practice under those circumstances because why not? We're going to do that in a hot second.
Mhm.
Right. Right. Okay. I think
I
that's
mean, in
fair.
a yeah, otherwise I had other thoughts on how we can troubleshoot if it's the texture, like is it the tactile, like he doesn't like the feeling of the straps, or is it the sound of the click? Like we don't have a whole lot of
I, I
time between now and
I
then.
right. I feel it's the sound of the click, but I can't any longer. I could when he was a baby, but I can't any longer get a collar on him because he's been
Mm,
using this harness that he's comfortable with and has been since the beginning. So it's kind of, and I question whether uh, the collar thing has anything to do with being like strapped into one of those grooming tables
sure.
and that's now his association with
A negative feeling.
with that because I think he was strapped in with more than just his harness given that all the blood vessels in the one eye burst. Like to me that was something, this kind of
Like a
straining on.
struggle, right?
Yeah. um so I don't know. I'm trying not to dig into that too much, but I have a
Hunch.
well, and I got a nice short leash when we went off of the retractable leash for anything but potty. I got a nice leash and I got him a matching collar, and I can't get him in the collar for the leash, even
Sure.
though the leash is going to be hooked to his harness. I thought that like that would be a good thing. So I don't know. We can keep trying with it because I would like it if he could occasionally wear a collar. It would be helpful.
Sure.
Um,
Do you want the collar for like identification purposes? Okay.
yeah. So before his tags were on his uh, harness.
Hmm.
And it occurred to me that, like, every time he does like, when we would be like, oh, let's go for a walk, and we'd shake it'd be like this tinkly of his things to let him know. Well, I noticed that he started like being kind of
Mm,
scared of that sound. And I'm like, well, I guess it would annoy the hell out of me if everywhere I went, I had a little jingle jangly thing, on me.
sure.
So I took them off, and that did help in that moment, like alleviate something. And this was before the drugs and what we knew we were up to. But so yeah, so it's I would then like to get the collar so when he needs to be identified and we're out, like he could have the collar with his information and the vaccine stuff and whatever you're supposed to legally have attached to your dog.
Sure.
That we don't because he won't deal with that. But
I
I
mean,
think that's
for what
way
it's
down the line though, because I it's
sure,
just so unimportant to me at the moment compared to where we
everything
are.
else.
Yeah.
Okay. That's fair enough. And I definitely have other ideas on ways that we can provide identification and whether if it's a collar or other things. Yeah, we can talk about that. It, does he have a microchip by chance?
He is chipped. I was going to
Does.
ask you
Okay.
about that. Like, is that good enough? Like, part of me is like, he's got a chip in him. Like,
I mean, the chip is good because if he is found and someone is able to collect him and take him to a hospital, they can scan it, and then provided your information is up to date with the microchip company, the
mm,
microchip the hospital or the microchip company will reach out to you and be like, "Hey, we found Loki." The
right.
advantage of the identification on the collar or on the harness is if the person that found him sees that, they might contact you directly instead of having to take him to a hospital,
Very
especially if
true.
it's off hours or whatever the case. Um, so yeah, the microchip is great. I think worst case scenario, you know you've got that in your back pocket. But I
Right.
think because of that, I agree that this can be a lower priority thing, but I definitely have ideas on stuff with that we can do to help get some identification on him. So
Okay.
we'll do that later. Let's see how it goes then with the muzzle. And I'm wondering if all of that, I'm very curious to see what comes of this exam and if there's
Mhm.
anything indeed going on in the mouth regarding his picky eating, just to bring us a little bit for full circle. It could be something going on in the mouth. Who knows? We'll find out in a little bit, right? It could
Mhm.
be his anxiety,
Mhm.
definitely. It could be he's got some underlying GI stuff happening. That's what ended up happening with my dog. But
Mhm.
because he's also anxious, it took me a while to decipher, is it just because you're anxious with all the things? And finally, we got his meds figured out. And then he was still having appetite issues. We went and saw a specialist with internal medicine. They did ultrasounds and endoscopies and all the things. And it turns out he has IBD. So he
Okay.
actually had a thing. And even after that, it took a few medications that we had to try, some special foods. And finally, he's going on 13 years old. And I think in the last 3 years, we finally are good. And that was years, like literally like 5 years of trying to figure this out. So who
Okay.
knows what it could be, but I like that you are keeping an eye on those things. They seem small, but they could be telling us something about the bigger picture. So
Right.
for now, I like your solutions. You're trying to be creative with placement and where you're putting it. I think that's okay for now. You've got enough on your plate. Let's see what comes out of the physical exam. If everything in the mouth is fine, hey, what's left? We have the behavior, like anxiety portion, or we have GI. So we'll explore those when it comes to it. For now, the lowest hanging fruit, I think, is just mouth pain, and we've got the exam coming up that's going to tell us about that.
Yeah.
I would just kind of wait and see. How are you folks feeling about that and everything that we talked about so far?
Good. I mean, I think we're on the same page. I think
And we're
in
still
this
looking,
in
we're
this
still
next
reading all the documents
well, I
that,
was just going to say in the next
the managing is the one that I like the best because it's like we have to manage all those anxiety and those triggers. And
For
while
now, yeah.
I think we understood that, that along with the body language is the two key things for me to keep figuring out and putting the puzzle
Yeah.
together.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I
I
think the
think
more we
that,
keep them away from triggers, I think the better.
right, until we have the skills to navigate our environment, whether
Right.
that's a person, another dog, or whatever the case. Yeah.
yeah,
So I
and I
don't want to
think these
get,
last 3 weeks have concentrated so fully on medicines and vets and just trying to get him to be something to study versus not knowing what's going on with him.
yeah.
Um, so on one hand, it feels like we're just getting started right now in this call versus the last one, but
Yep.
that's not really true because there was so much to
Going
figure
on.
out, and the learning curve for me and Larry to understand the drugs, and the explanations you've given on that, and just what are we dealing with and what are the options.
Yeah. And I don't think you're necessarily behind on anything. This is where we start. We can't really make a lot of progress if medically Loki needs attention.
Right.
So this kind of needed to happen no matter what, from the behavior medication standpoint and from getting the physical exam done standpoint. So I think we're doing all of the right things in the right order, which is great. And
Yep.
because there's been so much going on focused medically in the past few weeks, I think it's good to just, for now, let's still focus on those foundations. Like you said, Larry, the management, the body language. I don't want to give you a lot of new things to do. I'm actually not going to give you any new things to do. We're going to do a lot of continue doing what you're doing. The appointment is on, when did we say? The 19th or the
19th,
20th?
the
Okay.
19th.
So it's next week. So we've got a week to troubleshoot the muzzle and how that's
Yep.
going. And you're going to retest the gabapentin dose. If you
Yep.
can do that this weekend, and then before you go out into the world to do the trial, maybe do a couple minutes of the muscle training. Let's see what happens with the clicking in the class behind him. Who's to know? We'll find out. So I think that's a good idea. Continuing to experiment with the sounds in the safe space. Is there something that's spooking him at night? Who knows? And then
Right.
pairing some sort of calming treat in the safe space when he goes in there at night. So that's maybe trial and eval to be like, the Kong helps calm him, or the licky thing does, or whatever else does. So it can
Mhm.
be something he's looking forward to at the end of the night, as opposed to being like, I don't like it, and I'm gonna pout about it. We don't want that to be the feeling, right?
Yep.
Um, I think that's enough for now. What do you folks think?
No.
I think our plate's
Okay.
full.
I agree. I agree. And
Uh,
we'll continue building on in future sessions, of course, and get into nitty gritty. But I think once having that exam, it helps to just rule out what it's not. So we can be
right.
like, this is what's left of what it could be and what we do from here. And it's also giving the higher dose of the Prozac more time to work. That's
Right.
going to help us with
And
training.
I shot the vet the email as well that like we're already over a week and on the higher dose, and he's nothing like he was the first week. You
Good.
know, that the first 2 weeks from day number one, he was totally stoned, and he
Mhm.
hasn't exhibited that behavior at all. So
Good.
I'm cautiously optimistic for
Good.
a full dose,
I am
that
too.
it will go past 2 weeks.
Yeah, based on how things are going, let me know. I'll probably shoot you an email probably on Monday just to see how the test dose of gabapentin went over the weekend, just to check in. And then we'll see how the vet visit goes after that. But if you folks have any questions over the weekend, let me know. And then we'll communicate, we'll figure it out. When do we want to meet again for our next session? I know the appointment is next week.
Was this one a month or was it
No, this was 3 weeks. I don't
3 weeks?
have my phone for that.
The first one was 3 weeks ago, or
When did we meet? That was on February 20th. Yeah, 3 weeks ago.
yeah,
Do you
3 weeks.
want to shoot for like maybe roughly 3 weeks?
She's going to get her phone.
Okay. Yeah.
I think that sounds right. 3 weeks.
I don't know where
Because
mine is. It's yours.
My phone.
Yeah, you can just
Oh,
pull up.
she said it was on the 20th of February. First one.
it was 3 weeks
Okay.
ago that we last met.
But I want to see, like, if we did 3 weeks out, is that when you're gone? Is that when mom's gone? Is that when
Hmm.
everybody's gone? It's spring break.
Today's the 13th, so we're
Today's the
talking
13th. Yeah.
first week of April.
Oh, first week.
So like the first or second. I'm on vacation that week.
The
Sweet.
first and second. Okay.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah, either one, the first or the second would, well, not the first, the second or the third.
fine. Thursday or Friday.
Second or third, April 2nd or 3rd.
Do you have a strong preference for the Thursday or the Friday?
Mm-mm.
No, Larry's on vacation. Maybe not Friday because I'll probably work.
Okay.
Maybe Thursday,
Okay. Do you prefer
second.
morning or afternoon? Like this time, is that good, or would you prefer earlier?
Good morning. Do you
Yeah.
have like an early whatever?
5
I
o'clock in
can
the
do
morning, 6
10
o'clock.
a.m.
You didn't hear
I'm an
smart Alex.
early riser. I'm an early riser, so don't tempt me.
Oh, Larry's up at 4 a.m. every day.
Yeah, I know that.
10
I
o'clock.
know that.
10 a.m.
10
Okay.
o'clock? Okay, let me book that for you. So we've got 10 o'clock, and this is Thursday, April 2nd.
Oh, second.
Keith's birthday.
Beautiful. Okay, so save. Make sure I save it. That might help. Okay, I just penciled that in. You should be getting a confirmation. If anything changes and you're like, no, I can't do that day, or no, I can't do that time, in that confirmation email, there's a way to reschedule. So you
Sure.
just click the button that says reschedule, and then you find a better day or better time that works for you, and that's absolutely fine. Life happens, so
Yep.
things come up.
Uh,
Okay. We talked about a lot of good things. I think we're in a good spot. I hope you both are feeling a little less overwhelmed than a few weeks ago. It sounds like that's the case with the meds working and with all the things you're learning and implementing. I hope it's becoming a realization now.
yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
We're in
I-
practice versus trying to figure it out.
Sure. Yeah. And we've got a long road ahead of us, but I think I mentioned this last time. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yep.
We're right on track. We're doing fine. All right, folks. Well, I will send you this training plan before the end of the day. Again, reach out to me with any questions. Otherwise, if things are going okay, I'll touch base early next week to see how things went over the weekend. And we'll go from
Sounds
there.
good.
Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you for the
All right,
extra
folks.
time there. Thank you.
Absolutely. Have a good rest of your day, guys.
You
Bye.
Take
too.
care. Bye-bye.